All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this onboarding session we have for you today. I'll just give it 30 seconds to a minute or so, just to let everyone from around the world join us, and we'll get started just after that. So I'll just wait for another 30 seconds or so. Nice to have you with us, though, and hope everyone is well. All right. I think most people will probably have joined by now, so we can get started. Firstly, welcome everyone. Lovely to have you all with us. My name is Michael. I'll be your host today for this webinar for getting started with Supermetrics for Looker Studio. I've been with Supermetrics now for approximately a year and a half, and I'm in the scaled customer success team here. I'm based out of Helsinki, where our headquarters are, and joining us today on this webinar is Ilkka and Gannon. Ilkka is our senior product manager for Looker Studio, and he'll actually be taking us through most of the webinar today and doing a bit of a deep dive for you all. And we also have Gannon, our solutions architect, who will be helping to assist during the session with any questions you may have. So Ilkka, would you first like to introduce yourself, and then maybe Gannon can also do the same?
Sure. Thanks, Michael, and hello, everybody. So nice to see you here today. My name is Ilkka Särkiö. I'm the product manager for our Supermetrics for Looker Studio product. Been with the company for about 6 months. Very excited to join this webinar today. Before I got into MarTech products about 4 years ago, I worked as a data science consultant at the media agency for a long time, and marketing data and dashboards have a special place in my heart, and I'm excited to tell you some things about that today. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, thanks, Ilkka and Michael. I'm Gannon Underwood. I've been with Supermetrics for just over 2 years now. I actually started in the support team, but have recently moved into the solutions architect role for North America. It's very exciting. But yeah, I've worked with data pretty much my whole career. So any questions you have, feel free to put them in the Q&A, and then I'll take a look. Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you both, and thanks for your time for joining us today. Moving forward, a couple of little things before we get going. So during the webinar, we will have a Q&A session at the end, approximately 5 minutes or so, maybe a little longer, depending on how much time we have and how many questions there are. But do feel free to ask your questions on the go. Gannon is on hand for answering anything that pops up, so feel free to ask away. You can find the Q&A on the little tab on the right-hand side as highlighted. There's also a useful resources tab, which has some great little bits linked there for you. So you can also feel free to take a look at those during the webinar, or also open up the links to take a look later. And finally, after the webinar, make sure you keep an eye on your inbox. We have this recording that'll be sent to you all, and for those who couldn't attend live, they'll also be able to see this later. Moving on, a little bit about the agenda for today. So I'll be taking you through Supermetrics in a nutshell, and then we'll have a pre-recorded video, about 4 minutes or so, for getting started with Supermetrics for Looker Studio. We've pre-recorded it just for it to work more efficiently on our platform we're using today, and also to protect any sensitive data of ours. After that, I'll be handing it over to Ilkka, who will be taking you through what can Supermetrics for Looker Studio do for your team. He'll be doing a bit of a deep dive there, and then we'll loop back around to a Q&A session after that. So that's what we've got lined up for you today. So first of all, welcome again. Lovely to have you with us. Thanks for joining. We hope you'll find this webinar interesting and of use, and something you can also review later should you need to come back to any points that we mention. So let me take you through Supermetrics in a nutshell. So basically, Supermetrics is a data pipeline platform that allows you to integrate your data from over 150 sales and marketing platforms. So as you can see on the left of the slide, we have connections to web analytics, paid media, organic social, e-commerce, and much more. Now, we help make that analysis ready to your go-to analytics tool for your reporting needs. So for example, into spreadsheets, data visualization like Looker Studio. We also have data warehouses and cloud storage. So obviously today we're focusing a lot more on Looker Studio and how that can help you and your teams with your marketing data reporting. Speaking of which, we have some of our most popular use cases from our existing customers using Looker Studio at this time. So for example, on the screen, we have marketing budget pacing, campaign performance reporting, conversion rate optimization, and reach frequency monitoring. Now, these are just a few of the many use cases that there are with our customers throughout the world. And also, there are many other ways to utilize Supermetrics to help with your reporting and your marketing decisions. Moving forward, we now have the sort of quick 4-minute video or so for you for getting started with the basics for Supermetrics with Looker Studio. Now here you'll see briefly how to authenticate, also how to create a report using our pre-made templates, as well as making one from scratch as well. So I will actually just stop sharing my screen and the video will start. And also after that point, Ilkka will be taking over and take us through the next stages. So I'll just bear with me 1 second. And we'll get the video up and running.
Hi, I'm Alex from Supermetrics. In this video, I'll show you how to get started with Supermetrics in Looker Studio. Let's start by connecting Looker Studio to your data with a Supermetrics data source connector. Go to the Looker Studio data source gallery and search for Supermetrics. Select the data source you want to start moving data from and click on it. In this example, we'll connect data from Facebook ads. Log into the Google account you use with Supermetrics and give Supermetrics the necessary permissions to work with your account. Next, authenticate your data source with Supermetrics. Note that for some public data connectors, no authentication is required. In the parameters list, under Select Accounts, select at least one account and scroll to the bottom of the page. To create a report with our template, select Use Report Template for new reports, or deselect it if you want to create a blank report. For this example, we will select the pre-made Supermetrics Facebook Ads template. After this, click on Connect. Next, you can modify the fields and parameters of the report. After you click Create Report, you'll see a dashboard with your Facebook ads data in the Supermetrics template. Once you're using a template, customize the structure, metrics, and visualizations to match your needs. You can find a number of other pre-built templates for Looker Studio on our website at supermetrics.com. Next, I'll show you how to create a new report. Any data source you have previously connected will be listed in the My Data Sources tab. Choose the data source you want to use in the report and click Add, and you'll be ready to start transferring your data to Looker Studio with Supermetrics. Let's start off by building a table. Select which metrics you want to include in the table and which dimensions you'd like to split your data by. For this example, we'll use impressions, reach, and total amount spent as metrics and split it by campaign name to compare the performance of different Facebook ads campaigns. Next, let's sort our data by impressions to see the best performing campaigns first. You can edit the table in the Style tab. Let's add a time series chart to see how our results evolved over time. Select date as the dimension and impressions and reach as the metrics. Let's also add a pie chart to visualize our audience demographics. Select country as the dimension and reach as the metrics. Then sort the data by reach. Now that we added the figures for analysis, let's filter them. At the top of the screen, click Add a Control and choose a control you want to use as a filter. In this example, we'll add date range as a control to see the data for a specific period of time, as well as a drop-down list with the campaign name. To view the big picture, you can also pull data from multiple platforms to the same dashboard. Click on Add Data at the top of the screen, search for Supermetrics, and set up the connection to each data source the same way we did at the beginning of this video. When you're ready to share this real-time report with your colleagues or clients, simply choose an option from the Share button at the top right corner of your screen. You can also automate the delivery of your reports by scheduling email delivery. Your collaborators can interact with your report by changing the control filters and seeing more details about other charts. With Supermetrics, you can get a clear view of what matters and make better business decisions faster.
Okay, thanks, Alex, for taking us through this brief introduction to how to get started with Looker Studio. And next, I am going to continue our webinar with what can Supermetrics for Looker Studio do for your team. Before I get going, hello everybody, those also who joined a bit later. My name is Ilkka Särkio. I'm the product manager for Supermetrics for Looker Studio. And before I get going, I want to tell you that we'll be sending you an invite link, which is also popped up on your screen. If you want to book a call with me, an interview call where you can give your feedback about our product, and also if you want to ask questions about how certain things work. So feel free to check the link here or later in the email that we're going to send you to book a call with me. So what can Supermetrics for Looker Studio do for your team? Today I'm going to go through the kind of guiding principles of how to make actionable and engaging dashboards using data provided by Supermetrics in the Looker Studio dashboarding program. First off, I want to talk about the kind of question of, does data actually equal information? Supermetrics provides you with a bunch of interesting data, but to really turn that data into information, Looker Studio is the tool to help you do that. So this is data. It's a bunch of numbers and rows, which doesn't really make sense to you unless you're an AI or a mathematical savant. But with Looker Studio, you can actually turn that data into visualization, into information that you can convey to your audiences to really make an effect and business decisions based on that data. So basically, the Supermetrics data with Looker Studio dashboards enable powerful visual storytelling. Whenever I'm building reports, I like to think about these three kind of guiding principles about how to convey information to my audiences. First of all, visual storytelling is about data visualization. So exactly what we saw on the last slide, visualizing complex data sets so that our viewers, our audiences can understand the underlying insights and then take appropriate actions. But visualizations alone may not be enough. So it's also about storytelling. So sharing and explaining insights in an interesting and compelling way. I'm going to today also talk about how to find the questions and find the stories to really make an effect with your dashboards. And finally, it's about visual communication. So presenting visual information to a certain audience with the goal to create an exchange. So exchange of information, exchange of ideas. I'm not going to go into the aesthetics of building dashboards, but certainly visual information is such that really leaves an impression on your audiences. And for that, Looker Studio is definitely the right tool. Before I even start working in Looker Studio to build a report, I like to sit down and think about what are the questions I need to get answered. Let's do a little role play here first. You might have been in this situation with your manager or your client, or maybe even with yourself, asking how our marketing campaigns are doing. Maybe this is enough and you just go to Looker Studio and start pulling all different types of data through Supermetrics about your marketing campaigns, ending up with a bunch of different graphs and visualizations. But what I like to do is to sit down and really drill down into the details of the questions so I can really understand what is going to be the focus of my reports, the focus of my dashboards, to make them actionable and engaging for myself and whomever I'm producing the reports for. Good question. What are you especially interested in? Well, are we able to generate traffic with our ads? Yes, so already we are drilling down a bit deeper. We are not talking about whatever campaign performance metrics, it's about traffic. I would like to ask, how would you use this information? I want to see at a glance how our campaign performance metrics are developing and where to improve. Now it's a lot easier to actually go deeper and figure out how to display the development of campaign performance metrics and also where to improve. Some guiding and helpful principles to actually figure out what are the questions that you should be answering with your marketing report dashboards. First of all, it's about knowing your audience. Who are the people we are wanting to tell a story through data visualization? It's a completely different thing to make a report for somebody who's very deep down into the details and knows the context of the data that you're working with, or maybe it's a client with a less prominent understanding of what you're dealing with. It's a really important thing to think about before setting the questions to answer with your marketing dashboards. Then what I like to do is to be precise. So general vague questions usually tend to get quite vague answers also. So trying to really drill down to the details and the whys is very helpful for setting yourself questions that are easily answered by a certain visualization, a certain set of data in Looker Studio. And finally, I like questions to be actionable. So something that can actually lead to a change in the way you operate, to a decision, so that those reports don't just end up being a nice to know information, but actually something that can be useful on a daily basis and relevant to the audience viewing those reports. And to elaborate a little bit about knowing your audience, I here have a couple of examples of roughly the same data, but represented in very different ways. On the left-hand side, a very nitty-gritty detailed table view of click-through rate and other metrics by Facebook ad name, with additional controls to filter per campaign name and the number of impressions each of those ads received. This would be perfect for somebody who's very knowledgeable about the setups, maybe a planner from the creative agency who really knows through and through what all of those ads really mean. And on the kind of very opposite end, on the right-hand side, a very general time series chart of the development of click-through rate over time, something very suitable for an executive just wanting to see how have we been doing in the past months? What can we expect in the future? What are the trends and the general level of performance? So presenting information relevant to the recipient and also choosing metrics and dimensions that are familiar and provided with sufficient context can really help building engaging dashboards. And on the note of actionability, I have here kind of an anecdote. I have here two different representations of somewhat the same data, some weather information, the forecast for Helsinki weather for tomorrow, and then the mean temperature on planet Earth. Well, I would say that the first one is a lot more actionable to me personally. I can actually select what to wear, whether to bring an umbrella to the office tomorrow, whereas providing information that is not really actionable to me, it's not that compelling. An analogy for the marketing data would be that you're really, for example, you're presenting information about some vanity metrics that your team specifically doesn't have anything to do about, that can lead to some clutter on your dashboards, and maybe those are not the questions that you want to have answered. So following these principles and guidelines will help you pinpoint the questions that you really want to answer with your Looker Studio dashboards using Supermetrics data. Well, how to really answer those questions? I think it's about selecting the correct data and then the correct visualizations to find the insights, to answer the questions, and then turn them into a story to present to your audiences. First of all, about selecting the data. A useful thing to know is that in Looker Studio and also in Supermetrics data in general, we split our data into kind of two different categories. We have dimensions, which basically describe and categorize your data, and they answer questions such as who, what, where, or when. So you can explore different dimensions to understand how to categorize your data. On the other hand, metrics quantify your data, and they answer questions like how much, how long, and how often. And what I like to do before I even make my final report and dashboards, I want to get familiar with my dataset. So I encourage you to explore and try out different metrics and different dimensions to get a grasp of what kind of data you're working with. When you're exploring your data, it's also easier to find interesting stories and insights from the data and select the ones you really want to present in your final report. So find stories to answer the questions that you have defined for yourself. And finally, you should choose the right visualizations to help you tell a story. There are, of course, a bunch of different visualizations available in Looker Studio, and each of them have their specific traits that help kind of work. They work with different types of information, and I'll be next kind of going through a couple of examples in Looker Studio. First of all, how to find the different chart types available, and then also some helpful material to help you select the types of charts for different occasions. And as a final note and a tip, what I like to think is that it's better to try and avoid answering all the questions that you have with just a single visualization. Instead, I like to kind of have a single visualization or even a single page with a couple of visualizations just dedicated and focusing on one question. You can, of course, bunch up a lot of different data into a single chart, but usually those are a bit hard to read. So I really recommend you to spread your information out into very focused, separate visualizations. But next, I am going to show you a little bit in Looker Studio how to find and different chart options available, and then also give you a couple of examples of my favorite types of Looker Studio charts. So here we are in Looker Studio in the edit mode in a report that I have linked to some Facebook ads data. So to add a chart, like Alex also showed you in the video, you just go to the top navigation ribbon and find Add Chart. Here you can find all the different charts, so basically visualization options that you have available in Looker Studio. Keep in mind that the table is also a chart in Looker Studio, so if you're wondering where to find table information for data, it's also under the charts options. And Looker Studio charts come in all different shapes and sizes, all with their kind of respective benefits and disadvantages. Also, what you can do is that when you have already a chart in your report, you can just select it. And in the Properties tab of that chart, in the very top, you have a little arrow where you can actually change the type of a chart on the fly. Some charts have a little bit different settings, but they also share a lot of them, especially the metrics and the dimension selections for each of the charts. So you can easily just swap out a chart for another one and try out what works best for your use case. And next, I'm just going to go through a couple of my favorite chart types for conveying different types of information. First, I have the scorecard. This is very useful for conveying kind of an at-glance summary of a metric of interest. So scorecard is basically just a metric summarized, and you can also spice it up with a little period comparison number to show how this metric is moving. Next, I have an example of a line chart. This one is actually a time series chart because I have kind of a time dimension on the x-axis. Line charts are excellent for displaying the development of a metric over time. You can also add multiple different lines in the same chart. They can be different metrics or the same metric split by different dimensions. And line charts are especially useful when you want to visualize trends and comparisons between different metrics and dimensions. Here I have, for example, also added a reference line to a line chart, helping to understand what is the average of this metric over the time period selected. Next, I have a bar chart. This, in fact, is a stacked bar chart. And bar charts are very useful when you want to compare metric values across some categorical dimensions. In this example, I have my ad spend numbers by country, but also by campaign objective. So basically, here I have all my countries, and each of the bars representing the total ad spend is also split by the campaign objective, showing me an easy comparison of what is the distribution of ad spend across different countries, but at the same time, I can see what is the distribution of ad spend within each region. And then finally, a very different type of chart, the scatter plot chart. A scatter plot is basically useful for comparing the relationship and the kind of correlation between different metrics. So instead of having dimensions on the X and the Y axis, you have two metrics that you're comparing against each other. So it's easy to visualize correlations between different metrics. And in this example, I have my impressions plotted against my clicks to see whether an increasing number of impressions actually return a respective amount of clicks. And it looks like that the correlation is quite linear, and we can expect to see a reasonable amount of, like a proportional amount of traffic, even if we increase or decrease our impression volume in our advertising. This is just a quick selection of different charts suitable for different occasions. And I would like to share with you a very useful guide provided by actually the newspaper Financial Times, the Financial Times Visual Vocabulary Guide. You can find it by Googling this name. And I find this very useful when I'm trying to figure out what kind of chart type should I be using in a certain context or a certain situation with my data. So you can find different types of scenarios, for example, displaying the change over time, or part to whole, so the kind of relationship of volumes against each other, and different options with examples of different chart types. And once you have really explored your data, you have found some insights, selected the visualizations, and built your dashboard, what comes next? I want to highlight a final point about turning the story into action. So I would like to think that good dashboards are such that they really help you make your next decision. And that's exactly what you can achieve with Supermetrics for Looker Studio when you're building the right kind of dashboards. What I like to do is make it easy to identify trends, correlations, top and bottom performance, and outliers to make decisions and change the way you operate. And to really succeed in monitoring, to really succeed, I think it's very important to utilize Looker Studio to monitor what kind of effects those changes you've made have had on your marketing data. Looker Studio has a great period comparison functionality, which you can use to see how things have changed between different time periods, and also time series charts are really recommended for monitoring the effects of your actions. Also, I think the story doesn't end here. So whenever you find insights, you make decisions, you change the way you operate, I think that gives an opportunity to find new questions to be answered. And that means that it's important to kind of not just stick with your old dashboards, and I would recommend you to reinvent your dashboards, think about adding some new visualizations every once in a while to really follow up on what kind of new information you figured out with the changes and decisions you've made based on your previous experience. We were requested to also, kind of unrelated to my presentation previously, to highlight how to add and use multiple data sources in a single Looker Studio report. So basically, since Supermetrics, we offer connectivity to a bunch of different platforms, and it's important to kind of utilize this opportunity to really consolidate your marketing data into a single report. I'll be going back to Looker Studio to quickly share you how to actually do that. So, like Alex said in the video, there are a couple ways to add more data to your Looker Studio report. Firstly, you can go to the resource nav item and select Manage Added Data Sources, where you can see what kind of data sources you have available in the report. There you can also add a new data source to bring more data to your report. You can also do this by clicking on the Add Data button in the top ribbon. This will open up the drawer of all the community connector or all the available connectors in Looker Studio. And if you have already set up a data source before, you can find them in the My Data Sources tab. You can find all the Supermetrics reports connectors by typing Supermetrics into the search bar. And I would like to add Google Ads data to this report. I have actually authenticated this connector before, and I have a connection to my Google Ads account. So I should be able to go and just add this data source to my report. I will select some accounts to use in this report. I will click Add to add this data source. And click Add to Report again. And now, if I go to the Data tab on the right-hand side, I can see that I have two different data sources available, Facebook Ads and Google Ads. When I now add a chart, let's add a scorecard next to the Facebook cost per click, where I want to visualize the Google Ads cost per click. To change which data source a chart is using, you can go to the Properties tab of the selected report element, and the very first item under the Setup tab is the data source. By clicking on the data source, you can see the added data sources in the report and also available data sources if you have any within your Looker Studio account. This is already using the Google Ads, so I can just go and select the appropriate metric, so cost per click. And I will just quickly style it to match the style I have in the one for Facebook. So I go to the Style tab. I want to hide the metric name and center the value. And in the Setup tab, I want to visualize the change over time. So I will use the comparison date range functionality, and I will select previous period as my comparison period. And additionally, I will want to make sure that the colors for my comparison are correct. And because cost per click going up is actually bad, so I'll change this color to red, and cost per click going down is good. I'll change this to green. So there we have it. So basically, you can use multiple data sources quite easily in Looker Studio. Just remember to go to Manage Added Data Sources. You can add and remove data sources there. And in the charts, the very first element in the Setup tab is the data source used by a certain chart element. I hope you found that useful. To wrap up my piece in this webinar, I want to leave you with some key takeaways. So I like to think that great reporting starts with asking the right questions and thinking about the audience that you're serving. Secondly, I think that exploring the data and trying out different ways to visualize it is the best way to find insights and stories to support the questions that you want to answer with your dashboards. And finally, taking action, making actionable dashboards and taking actions on them, monitoring the results with your dashboards, and finding new stories, iterating over your dashboard contents is something that really sets you up for success, and you can really have an effect with your reporting on your business. And then it's just rinse and repeat, and the cycle continues, and we are here to help you go through that journey. Thank you for your attention. And next up, I'm going to hand it over back to Michael to cover our Q&A segment of this webinar. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Ilkka. And big thanks as well for your live demos there. I'm sure it's been very beneficial for our customers here. I especially like the fact that you brought a couple of key takeaways at the end there, but also the fact of why Looker Studio is such a powerful visual tool, and like you say, for storytelling. Also the fact that you mentioned sort of what are the questions that need answering. Those are the kind of things that should be displayed on your reporting. So I'm sure very beneficial for everyone on the call, and thank you again for taking us through that. We have a few minutes left, 5 to 6 minutes left on the time scheduled for this webinar today. So I think we can dive straight into the Q&A. We do have a pre sort of recorded question, if you will, that was asked when this customer registered for the event today. So we'll tackle that one first. I also see there's a few in the chat that Gannon has been working on throughout this webinar. So the first one, I have an issue when connecting LinkedIn ads. Why does it happen, and how can I solve it? Gannon, would you maybe want to help with the answer to that one if you could?
Yeah, absolutely. So each data source has a specific set of permissions required to connect the data source with Supermetrics. We actually have very handy connection guides and permissions troubleshooting guides. I can share my screen and actually, I can't share my screen, but oh, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, can everyone see that?
Yep, it's just come up now.
Perfect. So we have these permissions troubleshooting guides, and then we also have these connection guides. This is our Supermetrics support center. It's full of a lot of great information. If you have any questions or if you just want to get some ideas for how to build reports, you can come to this support center and go from there. But yeah, these connection guides will outline the permissions required. So for LinkedIn, you need an account with at least viewer access to the ad account, and then admin access to the company page. As long as you have those two permissions, you shouldn't run into too many issues. But if you do have those permissions and you're running into the same error over and over again, please reach out to our support team and file a ticket, and then we'll take a look at what might be going on.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gannon. Exactly. Yeah. If you ever run up against anything and you're not sure how to handle it, of course, our team here will be happy to help. We actually have a question also in the chat that I think is a really great question. So we'll display that on screen hopefully in a second for everyone so they can see it. The question in the chat is it possible to combine data sources in a single scorecard, table, or chart? I mean to have total numbers, so spent or overall impressions for different channels such as Facebook ads, TikTok ads, Google search, etc. There's the question on the screen for everyone just to also take a look at. I know, Gannon, you have answered this in the chat, but for everyone who's not available to see the chat and for the pre-recorded version, would you be able to just give a quick overview there on how to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Looker Studio does have its own native data blending feature that will allow you to combine multiple data sources and basically do what Alonso has asked here. Thank you for the question also. But since it's a native Looker Studio feature, Supermetrics can't really support it if there are issues. And good news though, Supermetrics has actually released our own data blending feature that is all in-house with Supermetrics, and you can blend these multiple channels, Facebook ads, TikTok, Google search ads, and then input that basically as a data source in Looker Studio with this blend. We have some guides here as well. I can put them in the resources section, I believe, after this call. Yeah, so if you're interested in trying that as well, please let us know. Reach out. We can get you connected with our accounts team and have you try it out, see if it's a good fit.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gannon. I think we are a minute or so until the end of the session, so I think we can pretty much wrap it up from there. A couple of things from my side. So first of all, thank you all for joining. I hope you found this really beneficial. Of course, you will receive the recording after this session. And also a big thanks to Ilkka and to Gannon for helping me with this webinar and taking us through the demo and answering all the questions. Please also, you've probably got a pop-up on screen now. If you have a minute, please do let us know what you think. Send us a bit of feedback, help us improve the onboarding sessions moving forward. It really is only 2 or 3 clicks, and we appreciate your time and also your feedback so we know how to improve. Other than that, thank you all for joining. Best of luck with your reporting. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.